Hello, and welcome to the Talking About podcast brought to you by ARU's Counselling and Wellbeing team. Talking About is a space to openly discuss the topic of wellbeing and mental health in a way that puts our students' thoughts and feelings at the forefront. My name is Julie Webb, and I'm a counsellor with the Counselling and Wellbeing team. I'm joined today by my colleague and counsellor Lucas Oliver and Akshay Kumbalath, one of the Vice Presidents from ARU's Student Union. In this episode, we're going to be talking about understanding wellbeing and mental health. Hello, it's really lovely to be sat here with you, Lucas and Akshay. I'm feeling a little kind of nervous, not sure what's coming, but also excited. And I guess nerves and excitement go together, don't they?
Yeah, I totally the same. It's it does feel like an exciting project that it's sort of new ground, but it is the unknown. We haven't recorded like this before, have we? So it's getting used to the technology and the environment. So yeah, what about you, Akshay?
Oh, absolutely excited because I've been trying to work on this with Lucas for a long time. We've been having discussions, and to come down here to actually start recording, it's really exciting. And to be sitting here with you, representing a lot of students, hopefully I can bring in a lot of the questions that all the students have and to listen to what you would have to say about that and what we should probably hear about that. Let's start with the basic question. What is well-being and mental health? Because I believe there's multiple definitions, multiple ways in which students or pretty much anybody sees and understands that particular word, mental health and well-being. So I'd like to know what exactly, or maybe there's no single definition to it. I'd like to know what your thoughts are about what is mental health and well-being.
I guess I like to think of it as a continuum. So we're all on that spectrum at some place. Of course, some people have particular challenges. They may have a diagnosis, or they may just have challenges in terms of intrusive thoughts, or some sort of grasp on reality, for example, which would be at the more serious end of mental health. And then we have well-being, and what we find is that we can be struggling with our mental health, but actually in our life, our well-being and our management of that can be going quite well, really. And of course, equally, we can ordinarily be quite robust in terms of our mental health, but tough times hit us all, right? And life happens, various events which can actually impact upon our well-being. And we may go through stages where we're actually maybe not looking after ourselves. We may not be sleeping well enough. We might not be eating well enough, or doing, those other things like exercising, which we know tend to give us good well-being, getting out in nature, things like that. Any more ideas, Julie?
Well, I think everything that you say is absolutely right. And the term itself, I think mental health is a fairly modern term. It's a fairly new term. There are many definitions. The Law Society has some great definitions, funnily enough, because they're really wide spectrum definitions. And the Mind Organisation has a really good definition because they include our social structures, our cultures, our beliefs. But we tend to use the term mental health, and it's been hived off as a kind of medical thing. And if we think, actually, that's about the mind-body split. If we think about the philosopher Descartes in the 1600s, kind of defined that I think, therefore I am. And we had this mind-body split that there's me sat here and I have this mind somewhere and I have this body, and I'm kind of now separated into three parts. But I think some of the best definitions about mental health and well-being encompass our totality. And so the spectrum, the continuum idea, is absolutely perfect in that, because it means we're always on it. We're always in it somewhere. And if we're all in it and we're all on it, then there is also some connection between us.
Absolutely, Julie. And I guess, me being a counsellor rather than a philosopher, I was really going for that, wasn't I? Just to sort of recognize that we don't live in a vacuum. We're not separate. How we look after ourselves, it has an effect actually on our mental health. There's a connection. We may well be struggling, with things, say, to do with ability to focus, keep attention, whatever it is. We come at it from an individual place where we may have strengths and weaknesses that far. but actually how we treat ourselves and other things that maybe we don't have so much control about, like worries about finances as well. They are stressors, aren't they? And they have an effect on us.
So I was just curious, actually, from your point of view and hearing what's just been spoken about as well, but also what you bring here in terms of what is students' understanding of mental health? How are they experiencing it?
I think that coming back to your point where you said that the word mental health is fairly a new word, because I think we are starting to understand that the mental health is as important as the physical health, and we're trying to look after it. I think where we should start, how we understand that we are having mental health issues. Of course, life is all ups and downs. We go through things in life, but there are certain points where we don't really understand that we are going through a mental health situation.
We do have some tools just to get really practical. If people do go to the website at aru.ac.uk/wellbeing, there is a tool of evaluating, I guess, our well-being there. So that's just being very pragmatic. There's also something I'm quite fond of using, which you can find online, which is called an emotional needs audit. If you pump that into your favorite search engine, that will come up. It comes up as a PDF, and you can just look at 10 sort of fundamental emotional needs. And basically, if you're getting those fully met, then that would indicate you're sort of a happy bunny. But if you're not, and if you are wondering actually how your well-being and mental health is, then it might give you a little bit of a lead on where to focus sort of, certain needs. Like maybe we're not getting the attention we need. Maybe we're not feeling connected to the wider community in some way.
I think that's really important. And what you introduced there is thoughts and emotions. So we are this body-mind system, and emotions and thoughts just get produced willy-nilly. We don't ask for them. You're lying on a beach, sun's beating down, you got a cool drink at hand, seas lapping at your toes, and all is right with the world. And then bam, up pops some past memory, some shame, embarrassment, pain. Maybe there's some fear that's just suddenly rumbled up, some future anxiety about something that you're going to attend or something you're going to do. We're hijacked. Our moment of well-being, if you like, of feeling really good about the world, everything feels quite solid, suddenly gets hijacked. And what happens in the body when that happens? These feelings kind of erupt and bubble away, and then thoughts kind of flood in, and it can be really chaotic and overwhelming and scary, if we feel our body's being taken over by something. And I think when we talk about mental health, it is all of that as well. And how do we take that breath and step back and choose how to respond to that experience?
I really like the word respond there, Julie. And a lot of the time it's a reaction, actually. We get caught up. Hijacked is another really useful way of thinking of this, actually. And I guess as counsellors, a lot of the things that we will be highlighting with students, if you come and see us, is just how to break down and use awareness in the body so that we don't necessarily get caught up in that, but we can maybe start to observe it, take a message from it. That might be a skill as well. And also, of course, sometimes we'll get a thought or something pop into our head, but how do we check that out? Sort of with our rational mind, perhaps that can be also useful. So some of it is learning the skills really of how to gauge what's going on for us.
Yeah, your point about understanding what is going on and how we actually react to that. Coming from a student perspective, when you are a student, you're having your exams, you're having your assignments, you're having to come to the university and attend your classes. And if you're, basically trying to support yourself financially, you'd probably be working somewhere as a part-time job or anything like that. So you have a lot of things going on. And there are times where you actually break down because you run out of, the energy to do everything and then keep going. What is something that you would suggest that the students can actually do to look into themselves, to understand and to take a pause and breathe and understand themselves and to relax?
That's a fantastic question, because I think it leads us into the idea that actually we have to practice in a way. We have to learn how to do that. So we have something called psychoeducation. We can kind of read about it, research, watch YouTube and that kind of thing, gather information about what might be going on. But when we're stuck in that moment on our own, what do we do? And the first thing we have to do is breathe. We have to teach ourselves actually how to notice that we're breathing and really contact that breath to just calm the body, because let's take anxiety. It's a whole chemical reaction that's taking place and it feels like it's running away. Reach out. You know, one of the biggest endorphin hits in the body, I think it's oxytocin is the chemical, is when we seek support and when we give support. So there's another clue there, isn't there? It's about also relationality. Who's around me? Who supports me? None of us are operating without support. Even the pavement supports our legs when we walk down the street. But we're living in a culture, I think, particularly in the Western world, that is fast and it's slick and it says you are an individual and you are responsible alone and you should be able to step up to the plate. And that's a massive pressure for all of us, but I think particularly for students, where universities become a hotbed for their socialising, their education, their development. They might have moved, so they're living somewhere new as well. Finances might be difficult.
Yeah, I was really picking up, Akshay, from your picture you painted there about how full students' lives are. And I think you added to it there, Julia, as well. You know, we do need to take a breather sometimes, you know, just to step back and actually take the message from our body. There's a wonderful book by Dr. Gabor Mate that I really like called When the Body Says No. And I think, you know, that would be a little bit late really to get that signal. What can we pick up really to stop things getting extreme? Just to sort of, you know, notice levels of exhaustion when we need, you know, a bit of downtime, to have fun, to connect with people. I think really, as Julie was pointing out, is that vital thing. We're a social animal. We are not, you know, a lone wolf.
And just picking up, that's twice you've said today, is that actually this hit that the body encounters and experiences when there is emotional disturbance is information. It's telling us something. How do we engage with that? And I guess that I come back to the learning again. We have to learn how to engage with it. And actually counselling and wellbeing support is a really good way to do that, because you engage with another person and the other person can stay out of the way whilst you're contacting your own body-mind system and working out, you know, what helps you.
Coming back to that point where you said about reaching out to somebody, oftentimes when students are going through something, they might not reach out to the wellbeing services. The voluntary reaction is to get your feelings or whatever you're feeling to a friend, probably. And most of the times, none of these peers are trained to do it professionally. I mean, opening up to a friend would help you, but then how would they show the support is quite difficult to understand, because their reaction or their response would be exactly from what they have gone through in their life. So what do you say to students who has friends who come to them and then open up, and at times they don't really know what to do?
That's a really interesting question, because yes, 5 years training minimum is we're kind of doing, to be able to sit and listen. And when I say listen, I mean deeply listen. And the difference in that kind of, I'm going to call it a therapeutic relationship, is that I'm not in it. So when I speak to my friend will also tell me all about her stuff. And I might say, I'm feeling like this. And she might say, yeah, I'm feeling like that too. That doesn't help me, maybe. I just suddenly feel I'm not heard. So often friends can get in the way, even though they do their very best. But I think we come back to the same issue each time, is, okay, I've spoken to my friend. There's something still going on here. And now I'm a bit mad at my friend because I don't feel listened to, or I feel a bit helpless because they've not been able to help me. And there's still this stuff going on. So where do I go for support? What are my options? And in the university, I speak for this university, obviously, there are lots of support systems, actually. There are lots of areas where staff also have an eye and an ear out. So if somebody's not turning up for lectures for a week, that's noted, you know? If somebody has not come out of their student accommodation for a week, it's noted. So you can also, what we'd call, raise a concern. You can speak to somebody, you know, I haven't seen my friend come out her room for a week. I'm a bit worried.
That comes to my next question. What are the services that we have as students to reach out to and to, seek support from the university?
Well, the Counselling and Wellbeing team offer a range of support from wellbeing check-ins, counselling, mental health advising, coaching and workshops. And students can register online and find out all the information for the options there. We also have a daily drop-in service, which is a 20-minute consultation if you find you need support on that actual day. You can find all this information on aru.ac.uk/wellbeing. And don't forget there's money advice as well, disability services and residential services, as well as student advice to be accessed. And personal development tutors, they're there to support you and signpost students as well. And so I would really encourage those relationships. And we have our peer wellbeing mentors who create lots of activities, fun and creative activities, to help students, come out and connect with one another.
Another thing to bear in mind are the clubs and societies as well. So that's a really good way to get plugged into the ARU community, find like-minded people with similar interests.
And I just want to go back to counselling and wellbeing. Students can bring anything to the table, and it can be talked through and supported in a really safe way.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that. And I think that a lot of the time a student will put off, they'll think, oh, maybe I should go and, see the counselling wellbeing team, but they think they're not bad enough or that someone else is more deserving. And, we just say that actually, you're entitled to this actually. And, if you do feel that you would benefit from reaching out and getting some support, then that's what we're here for.
No, thank you for that clarity, because I think students actually needed to hear that, because sometimes when you reach out, there are things that students hold back. And I think that makes a difference when they actually put out everything that they're going through, and then the understanding kind of changes when there's everything put out on the table.
We know that when a student approaches us, it's a big step. And they've probably thought of doing this quite a few times and not done it. So, we are friendly. That's really important. And I think we really respect a student that does that.
Since you mentioned the societies, I just wanted to put it out there to the students who don't know about the societies and all the events that are organized by the Students' Union. We always try to organize events, and pretty much every week we have some or the other event that's going on to get the student engagement going. And then I think we have over 120 societies to get students to find the like-minded people in any particular field. Or in fact, if you can't find that in the 120 societies, they have an option to just create a society. It's pretty easy. You just need 2 people. You just need to go on the website, Students' Union website, and fill in an application and details about what the society is all about. So all the students have the opportunity to get engaged and find like-minded people.
Yes, and the peer mentors as well. There's always something going on pretty much of an evening as well. They're out and about being able to offer support. And I think just coming back to that question, sometimes, of course, Julie and I do speak to students and they haven't maybe gotten a useful reaction from their friends. But actually friends do often really cut the mustard, don't they? And I guess there would be many occasions where a friend has really helped. One of the temptations I think that's quite difficult as a friend, though, is to feel the pressure that you've got to fix something when actually we know from our experience, that Julie, we're quite surprised actually at the power of listening. Sometimes we don't even feel we've done anything apart from listen, but people seem to benefit from it.
I think that's so key. And also what you're hitting on there is so much to be done to support well-being, clubs, societies, connectivity, etc. But I think there's also something important to acknowledge here, that actually the counselling service, and we have counselling and wellbeing, but the counselling service is a very discreet service and a very necessary service for those students who are experiencing overwhelm. And I think there's a distinction to be made because even joining a club for them might not be a possibility. And so this service is also a discreet and powerful service. And the just listening, the professional listening, if you like, I think is so powerful. We have research that backs that up anyway. But I'm just, somebody comes to mind is a Zen monk, actually, Genpo Roshi. And he talks about listening and enabling and encouraging. And he talks about a turning word. And we don't know we're doing it sometimes. We can say something to someone. They've just, poured their heart out, and we can just offer some slight extension maybe, or we've summarised it in a particular way. And the words resonate with the person. And the words resonate so much, it kind of hits their body. Language, is phenomenology. Language, words hit the body. If it didn't, poetry wouldn't work. Lyrics in songs wouldn't work. So that turning word can just really help clarify something for a student. And that can be just really helpful. That kind of little light bulb. I see something in a slightly different way than I did before, and that might be helpful.
I absolutely agree with that, because, as a student, sometimes all we are looking for is that little hope or little light at the end of the tunnel. And that might actually change things and actually make the whole student experience much better in the university life.
And I think that's so key. And what that tells us as well is that how can we come to really hold on to the idea that it will change, that this, whatever we're experiencing right now in this moment and whatever this situation is, it will change. It will not last. Joy and happiness doesn't last. It changes. And the same with fear, anxiety and suffering. It changes. And how do we go with the flow of that without going under? There was some years ago, there was this kind of idea that we were just after happiness. We just all needed to be happy. We realised we couldn't be happy all the time. So we changed the language to contentment. Okay, can I be content where I am? And I think that's the mistake. Actually, our task, and it's a lifelong task, is how can I be okay in the discontentment of my life? Because life's tough.
I think that's a really nice way to look at it, given that we live in a society that has enormous pressure. It was around before social media, but let's focus on social media and the way it's given the ability for people to present a version of their lives. And it does tend to be one that can leave us in the shade. We can look at ourselves and think, oh my word, my life is nothing compared to this person. And loads of people feel like that. It's quite a phenomenon, isn't it?
Oh, I absolutely agree about the social media, because especially when you're a student, to see the Instagram feeds or the Facebook posts of different classmates or anybody from the university and seeing them. I mean, I actually personally don't believe that the social media is exactly what's the real life, but to see other people's post the best of their lives kind of takes a toll on you, that you're not living your life enough.
Absolutely. And it also highlights that we're comparing all the time. We only really get a sense of ourselves in relation to others. And it's what are we doing with that sense of self, and what are we doing with that comparison? So as a student, comes to see me feeling really low confidence, low self-esteem, comparing. And often there are lots of other narratives in there. I'm here at university, but everybody's doing so much better than me, so I'm not going to cut it. That means, I've got no career at the end of this. And the catastrophizing that takes place from this lack of esteem and confidence is really profound, I think. So we're kind of required to wear masks in a way, aren't we? We present a face to the world. And sometimes that is really necessary. If we're needing protection, we might have to pretend. If we're feeling really frightened, then we might have to wear a mask and, offer something that we're really not. So it's about checking out the narratives and what is really going on here.
That can be one of the difficult things, even with friends, actually. Ideally, we would be able to find at least one person who we can show up as ourselves with. But that's tough. And actually, I guess what we try to do at Counselling and Wellbeing is try to get there as soon as we possibly can with practicing compassion and acceptance for somebody as they are, so that we really actually show up as ourselves as well as counsellors in the room, but try to promote the safe space for someone to do that. And, you know, we're really focused on that, aren't we, Julie? Being friendly and open and accepting, compassionate within that space.
I think that's quite important when you think about international students as well. You know, coming all the way from a different country, trying to settle into a new life, a new university with a lot of people that they don't know pretty much. They have no one here in the university and trying to form new relationship. And a lot of the times they actually feel homesick because they are far away from all the people they love and care about. And sometimes they feel lonely because they are not here anywhere nearby. So I think the idea that there is a friendly place that they can approach to, you know, seek support or share what they're feeling is quite important.
I think what you described there is also a form of ethics, if you like, what we might call the ethics of hospitality, that you are of value in the world just because you exist. And, you know, can I respect that? Do I respect that? Can I embrace you in all your form and be with you in that moment you're needing compassion?
And there's something else to that, because of course, sometimes we may not behave in ways that we're particularly proud of. We're not perfect as human beings. That's just the way it is. And there's a practice of actually being able to show loving kindness to somebody, as Julie's describing, just by virtue of the fact that they are a human being, that we respect actually the person despite the behavior. And that's, a fundamental thing that I guess as counsellors, we're challenging ourselves to do.
Yeah, and I think the challenge is the good word there, because I think we need to be mindful, and showing compassion can be a real pressure. You know, I might be really irritated with you. I don't particularly want to show you any compassion right now. And what that alerts us to is I have parts of myself that are complete strangers to me. So really from one moment to the next, I really don't know how I'm going to behave. I don't know what I'm going to say. Don't know what my experience is. And how do I cope with the surprises that come up within me?
And I think we have to work as a team actually in counselling and wellbeing, don't we, to help one another and practice what we preach, because we need to be in a place where we're in as good a mental health condition as we can be, that our well-being is well taken care of, and we actually look out for one another, because we will be challenged with reactions that Julie's just described actually every now and then. That's not the way we want to be, but there's no point in actually denying that, and it's better that we work through it, and try to show this compassion, even if it's a struggle, but to find out actually more about that struggle.
It's something that I personally always wondered, especially from the well-being or counselor, especially with counselors who actually have to sit, listen, understand people who actually come and share their feelings or, whatever they're going through. Sometimes I always wonder, would it not take a toll on you listening to all that?
It does. And the first thing I want to say is I don't have to understand you. I think that's really important. I have to be with you. I have to hear you. Empathise with you where necessary, challenge maybe if I think it's going to be helpful, acknowledge what is going on between us, because, us in the room, me and the student or me and the client, there's something going on between us too. And yes, you're absolutely right. We have training, we have experience, we have support systems.
Yes, that's really important to say, is don't worry about us, okay? We do worry about one another, and we are completely set up to deal with that. And also, of course, to say if and when that's too much, because there will be things that go on in counsellors' lives which actually affect our capacity to be able to be there for others. And it's quite accepted that we would voice that. In fact, it's expected we would voice that.
And the pandemic, none of us escaped that. We all experienced the pandemic. And I continue to work. Lucas, you continue to work. So we have to have a support system where we can also go take our own stuff. Any therapist worth their salt is also in therapy.
And I guess it's a great opportunity when we're working with so many people to really learn about the human condition. And actually, if you're not working on yourself, you're missing a trick here.
And that brings us full circle back to definitions of mental health, doesn't it? Actually, what are we talking about? We're talking about the human condition in its totality. What's happening in mental health is not just happening in the brain, and the mind isn't just in the brain. The mind is in my big toe as much as it is in the brain. We're not just brains on pillows. These are whole body experiences that we're having with each other, often with people we don't even know but are aware of their presence. And I think that's really key, that we are talking actually about what it is to be alive in the world today.
And over time, I guess I've really learned for myself. I've been a counsellor about 20 years now, and I have to do something with my body first in order to process them. That might be just me. It might be something to do with the fact that I'm a male counsellor. I don't know, but I guess I can speak with integrity when I feel that the first thing I need to do is connect with my body. And I'm fortunately quite sporty, so I feel like I can do that. But my head just doesn't do me many favors if I don't do that first. Actually, I can't get to that place where this can function without things whirring away, giving me worries, going 100 miles an hour, unless I've done something with my body first, and maybe something mindful and breathe.
So key. And we come back to the information again, that the body is informing us all the time. I know when I'm suddenly craving the chocolate cake. I know there's something going on. So what do I do with that? Well, I might walk. I just take the body out of whatever situation it's in, experience something much wider than me, nature, the sky, seek support from friendships, seek contact, because it's bigger than me, it's wider than me. And I think there's something really key there about actually we have to spread this stuff out.
And I guess what you were talking about there, Julie, by using the outside world, getting out there, seeing a horizon and a sky, is helping us to put things in perspective. And that's sometimes what we will do through the process of counselling. We'll be helping people to do that. And actually, a lot of the time we do that for ourselves, don't we? We somehow learn, perhaps through talking to a friend as well, to put something in perspective.
I think as a student, what we should take away is that it's okay to ask for support. It's okay to express. It's okay to take that 1 second pause and breathe and to understand what we are going through. And if we need help, it's absolutely fine to ask for help. And also to understand whatever we are going through, that too shall pass, and everything is going to be okay. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
And I think you're absolutely bang on the money there, is ask. We all need support. So I know I said it earlier, so I'm going to repeat it again. Even the pavement supports our legs to walk down. We need support. We're social beings. We need each other. When we all have those moments as well where we want a bit of solitary, time. But by and large, particularly during struggle, we need each other. Thanks for joining us today to talk about well-being and mental health. If you've been affected by anything we've spoken about in this episode, please reach out to the Counselling and Wellbeing team and make the most of the support we can offer you. Visit aru.ac.uk/wellbeing to find out more about our service and how to get in touch. See you next time for an in-depth discussion about anxiety.